Who wants some Bakewell Slice?
Me.
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 Me. Me.
Me. Me.
Go on then, do it. Do it.
Welcome to Heronbrook Farm Kitchen, and it's fantastic to have you here as always. Today, we're going to be making Bakewell Slice.
Okay, so the kids have persuaded me. Today we're going to make Bakewell Slice. So what is Bakewell Slice? Well, it is this delicious looking thing here. I'm not sure if you can see, but I'll bring it up a bit closer. You've got a shortbread base made with a special ingredient. You've got a layer of raspberry jam, and then on the top you have this delicious soft frangipane. It's kind of shortbready, jammy, almondy deliciousness. And in fact, the kids absolutely love this one. So let's jump into the recipe. Okay, let's talk about the ingredients for this amazing Bakewell Slice. So it's really in three parts. There's a shortbread layer at the bottom, then you've got the jam, we're using raspberry jam today, and then you've got a frangipane at the top, which is like an almond meringue type thing. Absolutely delicious. So let's start with the shortbread. 150 grams of unsalted butter, 150 grams of plain flour, 75 grams of caster sugar, and 75 grams of semolina, which just gives it a really nice crunch. The jam, you can use whichever flavour jam you like. We like ours with raspberry. We make a lot of our own raspberry jam here at the farm. But actually for this, you need something a bit more robust than homemade jam. So we tend to buy this Bon Maman in the supermarket. It's very well set and it really just works very well with this Bakewell Slice. And then to make the frangipane, you're going to need 4 eggs, which we will whip up later on. You're going to need 200 grams of ground almonds, and then you're going to need a handful of flaked almonds to go on the top. And then you're also going to need 200 grams of unsalted butter to make the frangipane. So let's jump in and get them all combined. Okay, so let's combine the ingredients for the shortbread, which is the first thing that you're going to need to make. So we've got the flour that goes straight into the bowl of the stand mixer, the semolina, and the caster sugar. And then you can give that a little bit of a stir with the spatula. You don't really need to do this, not sure why I bother. No need to sieve anything. And then we've got the butter, and that literally just goes in on top like that. Flip this in on the stand mixer. And then we're going to use the K-beater. Now the one thing you do have to watch out for is that this will spray flour everywhere. So I'll just get my tea towel there just in case I need to stop that from happening. So if you start it slowly, and this butter is cold from the fridge, so it will take a while for it to incorporate. And then once it starts to incorporate, you can speed it up, slow it down again if it starts to spit flour everywhere. So I'm going to get on and mix this. It takes about a minute or two, and I'll come back to you in a moment and show you what it needs to look like when you're finished. So you can see that's starting to come together now, the butter's starting to flake. And we'll keep going for a little bit longer. So you will know it's done when it goes through a stage where it looks a bit like sawdust and it just starts to clump together like that. And that is the perfect stage. So switch the mixer off. So what we're going to do now is put it in the baking tray. I prepared this earlier, it's been sat in the fridge. It's just a simple baking tray. I'll put the dimensions in the recipe, which will be in the description below. And what I've done is I've just smeared it with butter. It doesn't have to be too thick, and then just lined it with baking parchment. So we'll put that down there. Take the K-beater out. And then all you have to do, this should actually be quite loose, is just tip it in like that. Move this out of the way. And then just using your fingers, or you can just shake the bowl, just spread it around. So you've got a nice even coating. And then using your fingers, just press it down to make a single, quite thin layer all the way around. So there you are, you can see it's still covered in finger marks. So what I sometimes do is just use something like a small rolling pin like this and just use the rolling pin just to flatten out. Okay, so what you want to end up with is it nice and flat in the tin like that. And what I do then is I just pop this in the fridge for about 15 or 20 minutes just to set up a bit and chill and relax before putting it in the oven. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to preheat the oven to 180 degrees centigrade, leave this in the fridge, and I'll get back to you in about 20 minutes. Okay, the oven's preheated, so let's get it in. So straight into the middle of the oven, set the timer for 15 minutes, and turn the temperature down to 65 degrees. And you do need to watch this because this can cook quite quickly. So depending on how accurate the temperature is in your oven, you might need to get it out a little bit before. You're not looking for it to go really brown, just slightly brown around the edges. There goes the timer. Turn the oven off. Get that out. So as you can see, just slightly going brown, but still quite pale. What we're going to do now is put it on the cooling rack and leave it to cool down completely, which will take about an hour or an hour and a half. Okay, so the shortbread we made earlier is nice and cool now, ready to move on to the next stage, which is to make the frangipane. So what I've done is I've roughly cubed the butter and put that in the bowl of the stand mixer. I'm going to go in with all of the sugar, and then I'm going to get, should have got it earlier, the K-beater with the silicone edge. So we'll get that on there, turn that around a bit, get the K-beater on, and then we're just going to mix this together on a slow speed to start with, and eventually we can speed it up. And we're going to mix it until it's all fully combined and the butter and sugar will combine together and go light and fluffy. It takes about 2 minutes. So you can see that's come together now, so I can turn it up to a high speed. And we'll let that run like this for about 2 minutes. Okay, so you can see now that's gone much lighter and much fluffier. I'm going to scrape down the sides again and then we can start putting the other ingredients in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start alternating, putting in a bit of the beaten egg, which I've mixed up in this jug, and we'll alternate that with putting in the ground almonds. If you put all the egg in, it would go too liquid, and if you put all the almonds in, it would go too dry. So you put in a bit at a time of each. So let's get that done. And you're going to do this on about a medium to fast speed. So a little bit of egg, let that mix in, and then some almonds, and then some egg, and some almonds. Just tip the last bit in there like that. So you can see that's gone to a beautiful light frangipane consistency. And then the final ingredient I'm going to put in is just some almond extract, which just gives it a bit of extra almond kick. So I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of that. So just give that a second to mix. And then we'll turn that off. So then, clear this out of the way. So then what I'm going to do is get the lid off the raspberry jam, and I'm going to be quite generous with the raspberry jam and get a load of that on here, and just using the back of the spoon I'm going to spread it out. It's a nice quality one, this one, plenty of fruit in it. There we go, nice generous layer of raspberry jam. I suppose I've used about half the jar, and it's a 370 gram jar. So then we'll get the frangipane out, and I'm going to need that spatula again. Just scrape down the K-beater. get most of it off. So I just have a final scrape down. And then I'm just going to use the spatula to lift it out and dob it around. It's beautiful and light now, this. So I should say I have preheated the oven. The oven's been preheated to 180 degrees. I did just turn it off before I started filming because it, as you know, does make a bit of a racket. Right, that's the last bit of that out. There we go, and I'm just going to use my spatula just to even this out. It will level out once it goes into the oven, so you don't have to make it perfect, but you do want a nice level surface. It is the world's stickiest stuff, this, so. And don't worry if some of the raspberry jam gets splurged out at the sides, that all adds to the character. And what you want to do is just try and make it roughly even, so that it bakes evenly. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to go and quickly wash my hands. Okay, and then the final bit before it goes into the oven, I've got some flaked almonds here, and I'm just going to sprinkle a generous layer of these on the top of the frangipane. Again, you don't have to be too perfect with this, you just want to get a reasonably even covering. There we go. So that's it, ready to go into the oven. So straight into the middle of the oven. Turn it down to 65 degrees. Where are you? Turn it down to 65 degrees, and we're going to set the timer for 25 minutes. Okay, that's it. Timer's gone off. Let's get it out. Turn the oven off. Wow, look at that. Okay, so there we are, absolutely beautiful. What we're going to do is just leave it on the cooling rack for 2 or 3 minutes, just to cool down slightly, and then we're going to take it out of the tin. You can't leave it to cool completely in the tin, because it'll get stuck in there. So I'll be back in 5 minutes just to turn it out. Okay, and as you can see, it's nice and cooled down slightly now. Now it is quite soft at the moment, and it will look like it's going to bend, but this is why I leave this little flap on here, because I can literally just tease it up and run it out onto the cooling rack, and that can now sit there for an hour or two just to cool down completely. And this is one you do want it to be completely cold before you slice it. So I'll come back to you in an hour, we'll cut into it and let the kids have some. Okay, so there we are. It's cooled down for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So let's just cut into it. Genuinely can't wait, to be honest with you. Look at that. It's soft. It's delicious. You can just see there, you've got the shortbread base, and then the thin layer of raspberry jam, and then the frangipane on the top, and around the edge you've got this crispy bit of jam here. Oh, absolutely delicious. I've really enjoyed making this today. I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have, do consider subscribing. Leave us some comments or questions. We always answer questions. It's been fantastic. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one.